Hello, hello, hello. I want to talk about. I thought about this when I woke up today. I want to talk about my four files. I developed four files for men, four categories, okay? Those are very broad, rough categorizations, of course. I have to start somewhere, in order to get a grip mentally on this, in order to wrap my head around it. So four different types of men, roughly. There's many more, of course, and melanges and between and all of that. But I just want to, in order to organize it, four different types of men in the world. Where do we start? Do we start with group one? The good ones, the good news first. Then we move on to the bad news. Okay, so group one is, and I directly link this up to my four different types of therapy help centers that I have designed in my head. Okay, and also wrote it down in my notebook, made videos about this. I don't know if this will ever come into effect in the future. I hope people will do it. If people don't do it, the AGI robots, the humanoids from Elon Musk, they will create that. Okay? So, but I still can dream about it and theorize on it, and it feels good because it gives me the feeling like at least I'm doing something to bring ideas into the world, solutions, to fix things in society. So I have four different types of therapy help centers in theory. Okay, the first one docks on to the group one of men and of course of women as well, but I wanted to talk about men in this video particularly because it's my mission to try to understand how men feel and think, and their interactions with women, which is very puzzling to me, so to say the least. So I'm trying to understand, and a lot of them don't help very much. There was this one English guy, I talked about this in my video from the other day, in the last video that I made before. So I'm going to upload that one first and then this one. So yeah, he talked about it. He said that if he fancies a woman, then he's extra afraid to go up to her and say how he feels and what he wants from her. So because then he could plunge deeper if she rejects him. And that makes perfect sense. That's logical, and I really appreciate that he explained that to us. So, and there are some other men that have started to reveal things about how they feel, and it all comes back down to extreme fear, and insecurity and shyness. And Mama Nicola feels compassion for them for that. I don't judge, I don't look down on anyone. The only thing that makes me judge and look down on is if men are acting out on women in a very bad way. So I'll get to this in a moment when I get to group 4. So let's stick with group 1 for now, which is parallel to the open therapy help center, the open clinic. Okay, which is really also a community center, which is a play center, which is an educational facility where people can watch videos from Jiddu Krishnamurti and on how to grow your own greens, like the videos by John Kohler. Those videos are all out there already on YouTube, but since I know about a bunch of good videos, I would definitely bring them into this community center, into this open therapy help center clinic where people can, and I would specifically have these videos there for people to watch and not other videos. So they'll also have access to internet, of course, but I want to have really good videos there that are downloaded, or if there's a possibility, I think you have to pay a fee to YouTube to download videos, but that open clinic can afford that, if they get donations. So I want this to be based on donations, of course, because I want education and health counseling to be free, and any kind of health advice I want to be free, because that is a birthright for all living beings. Okay, I think that's very, very important. It needs to be governmentally implemented as well. The farmer industry, the pharmacies, and the medical industry, they're all against that, of course, because if that's free, then it's governmentally regulated and their prices will be regulated, and they can't just jack the prices up into any height they want to. Okay, so that's why they're against it, and that's why they have put propaganda out against it, and they have probably, that's what I think, they have paid radio talk show hosts to bring this propaganda against free healthcare into the world. Okay, so it's really coming from the medical and the pharma industries. So people need to know that, okay, because it is your birthright to get medical information, healthcare information, healing information, counseling. Also, to really get herbs and all of this for free. It's important, but it's even more important that people learn, as Jesus Christ used to say, teach a man how to fish and you help them for life. It's funny how it's the male that gets the help, not the female. But it's 2,000 plus years back in time. Okay, we have grown since then. I hope so. When I look in the chat room, I see there's a lot of people that haven't caught on with egalitarianism, with being equals with women. I have not caught on yet. They're still stuck somewhere, and I wonder how old they are. They may be in geriatric facilities. Who knows? But a lot of them are still stuck, and maybe some are younger, and they have never gotten out of that religious enclave that they grew up in. So there's a lot of religious enclaves, including the Mormons. They never even let anyone, or the Jehovah's Witnesses. A lot of Christians, they don't let people mix with other people and talk to other people, because they could be influenced in a worldly, in a cosmic way, in a futuristic way, right? That's a threat to their religion. It's a threat to their ego. Okay, this has to be understood. All of this. So I want to have an open therapy help center. It's a community center, okay, where people can go, anyone, men and women, of course, and children and animals, and they can bring their animals, and where there's lots of information exchange happening, where there are people that come together that give health information and that consult with each other, that have discussions, open discussions, because not everyone is on the same page. People have different views also on holistic healing. So I I welcome all of these people to come together and to have discussions on these thoughts, and also particularly when it comes to psychology. So there are people from many different thought schools and who have very different views on how to help someone psychologically with psychological counseling, and different views on whether this is only hereditary, this is only based on genetics, and then other people think this is only based on how they grew up, in which family they grew up. And there's a lot of people in between that use both, that look at both aspects as I do. I'm always looking at all the different schools, at all the aspects, and also look at it from beyond and from above, and I weigh things off. I test it for myself. I put the dots together. That's real bottom-up processing, and I want people to learn to do that as well. That's what Jiddu Krishnamurti is advocating. Okay, I want people to watch his videos. So the open clinic is really for people that may have mental illness. I think most humans in the world, almost all humans, that's what I postulate, are mentally ill to some degree. Okay, but the open clinic is for people that are still functioning, that don't throw a brick onto someone else's head, that don't go out there bullying people, whether it's psychologically or physically. People that are still somewhat functioning, people that are not hurting anyone, people who are also interested in making the world a better place, or anyone who is just wants to know more, wants to learn more about healing, about politics, about the social structure, and so on. And a lot of people that want to get help, that want to get counseling, but they can't afford it, so this is for them. And they get counseling, and there should be a group session happening in that open center every single day from 5 to, I would say from 5 to 8. That's probably a really good time, from 5 to 8. And then we have dinner, all of us will have dinner together afterwards on a big table. Franz Janov used to do that a couple of times, not always, but sometimes she would have a dinner. She charged people, I think she charged people $20 to attend. It's okay. For a pasta dinner, it's a little overpriced, but it was worth it because, I like those dinners and she was cooking in the Primal Center, and it was nice to sit with them and eat with them. It gave me a sense of community. And this is what I want to offer to people, but for free. Okay, these things should be free. And the people who go there, they have to be washed, and they have to wear clean clothes, and they have to be functioning. They cannot be smokers. They cannot be alcoholics. So I'll talk about those in a moment. So I'm still talking about the open clinic. So with functioning people that are well-meaning, that have good intentions, that don't retaliate against other people, that don't bully anyone, that are clean inside and out, that don't drink, don't smoke, don't take drugs. They wash themselves, they have a good hygiene. And so this center, this open center, is also there for people who are suicidal. For anyone who's suicidal, there are many children, often children in battered homes. Okay, I see them on the internet. I feel terribly sorry for them. I help them as much as I can, like in the suicide prevention group on Facebook. When I see a kid there and they are beaten by their parents, fundamentalist parents who are, a lot of those kids are gay or trans, and then the fundamentalists' parents, they beat them because because they're so mentally ill, those parents, with that religion. They're cluster A. I group them into cluster A, schizoid. Okay, and it's also partly cluster B. When they beat their kids, they go into the cluster B. So those are violent people, and dangerous, and highly mentally ill, and they're religious, and they are unattuned to their own children. They view when the children are gay or trans, they view that as a threat. They beat them, and then the children are in total despair. They don't know where to go. They're anything from 5 to 13 or something. They feel totally helpless. They're in shock over how they're being treated by adults, by their own parents. They're suicidal. This one girl told me that her brother just committed suicide a year ago because her father had been beating him for years. Okay, he couldn't stand it anymore, so he killed himself. And she was in the suicide prevention group. She's trans herself. She wants to become a boy. And I'm not going to mention her name, but this is not some individual case. This is happening in massive amounts out there, and I feel infinitely sorry for them. Okay, I took my time one whole evening talking to her, and the next day checking up on her. How are you doing? How is it going? She had to leave. Her mother was also highly abusive of her. She had to get away from there. And she lives in Canada. They have some kind of youth protecting there, which is good. They have better health care in Canada. So I hope that she is taken care of. I hope that she gets the help that she needs. I doubt it, though, because most people don't really know how to help people and kids. And so this girl, I don't even think she is mentally ill. She's just happens to be trans, okay, which is biological. This is a big lecture by itself. That happens because the mother is under too much stress during pregnancy, when the gender is fully developing. Okay, so when there's fetal developmental stagnation happening, then anything can go wrong, and the embryo doesn't fully develop into a complete gender. Okay, where there's a gender discrepancy between brain and body, or anything on that scale. I talked about this many times. Most people don't know this. I read the first research paper that came out in the Psychology Today way back in 1989 already, okay, on this subject, where the first research groups were starting to get into this subject. So they have done more research confirming this, of course. So it has to do with stress during pregnancy. That's why it is absolutely vital that the woman has absolutely no stress while she's pregnant. Okay, so what is coming up? I'm making a video right now, so talking about psychology, important things. Okay, so I'm glad that he's feeling a little bit better now. He took a nap, and it's very, very important to sleep a lot. Make sure you drink rhododendron tea now. Okay, very, very, very important. Very important. Okay. So I have to always sit behind that, like drink the rhododendron tea. So, but I'm so glad that he's listening to me on this. So that's very important. So the Open Therapy Help Center is for people, for all of those people, for kids who are suicidal, for anyone who's suicidal, for anyone who is not dangerous to other people. You know, someone who's suicidal is a danger to themselves, and that open clinic is there for those people. Okay, and so now in regards to men, the men groups. So group 1 is for the men who can go to that Open Therapy Help Center. Group 1 are men who are functioning, who are, you know, I can't say that they have to be completely sober and all of this, and because I think that the absolute vast majority of humans are drinking alcohol to some degree. You know, there's very few that don't, myself included. Okay, and from the ones that don't they're doing it for religious reasons. They're not even doing it out of their own volition, as I do. So, and then there's a very minute minority of people who are doing it for health reasons, that don't drink for health reasons. So most people seem to not even be very concerned about their own bodies and health. They're just concerned about numbing themselves, you know, getting rid of that emotional agony. Most people don't talk about it. Most people are not even consciously aware that they are in some kind of emotional agony. Okay, all of this is what I'm observing in the world. Okay, so group 1 are the men. They're not overly alcoholics. They're not. So there are still some of them, maybe smokers also, but that will not be allowed in that open clinic. So if there are people that are functioning that are smokers, they're not allowed to bring tobacco products into that clinic. So this is a future vision on the Therapy Help Center. So how we can really help people. Okay, we're not going to help people by letting them smoke and drink or take drugs. That's also something that I criticize about the center. When I think later on, when Arjanov retired, then I think they did allow people to do all these party type of things, and they rationalized it away by saying they'll be too overwhelmed if they didn't do. No, I criticize this. This is wrong. That's the wrong approach. People need to quit. Okay, that's all there is to it. There are completely amazing herbs and herbal teas that can substitute these kind of cravings, these kind of craving substances, you know, that can make you not crave that anymore. Kratom is from South America. I heard they had really great results with that. I do not recommend microdosing or any kind of hallucinogenic drug. There are some medicinal herbs that have very, very, very mild hallucinogenic effects when taken in very massive amount only. And they are not addictive, they're not causing craziness, they're not having any negative side effects. So there are some herbs that are absolutely on the highest, they're the highest degree medicinal herbs. So for people, and then we have to pay attention, not all plants that are good for people are good for dogs. Not all of the plants are good for other animals, other species. So we have to really study this, get into this in depth. Okay. So rhododendron, for example, is not safe for dogs. Okay, you can't give your dog rhododendron tea, but you can drink it. Okay, and don't drink it in massive amounts though, because it has a mild hallucinogenic effect if you drink it in massive amounts. Pieris japonica is another one that's a little bit stronger hallucinogenic, but you take that in very minute amounts. I take about 5 leaves. I have taken 100 leaves. It didn't cause me hallucinogenic effects. But I have made a concoction with this in 2013 where I did have a hallucinogenic effect, and that was not scary at all. That was the blue god came to me in that. So that's why I call it the blue god plant. And that was only healing 100%. There was no negative side effect at all. I mean, there were some negative side effects, but they're more like incidental type of, diarrhea and vomiting. When you overdo it, of course, and it can lead to cardiac arrest. That's a pretty heavy side effect, but it's not like a long-term. When I talk about negative side effects, I talk about long-term health detrimental side effects, addiction or liver problems or kidney problems or, very heavy negative side effects that a lot of substances have. A lot of plants as well, so we have to be very careful which plant we look at. But I'm studying this very rigorously, also using myself as a test person for that. And I did in 2013 use myself as a test person, and I ended up in the ICU. So be very careful with those. Okay, so for a beginner, they might be able to take half a leaf. Here, I'll show you. This is Pieris japonica. It's dried. I have this here on that recliner chair. So this is what the leaf looks like. It is. You can eat it like a potato chip now. Might just as well eat one. And you have to chew it for a long time. You chew it tender. So I eat. It tastes really nice. It tastes like perfume. So I eat about 5 to 10, depending on how I feel. If I feel really bad, I take more. If I feel okay, I take about 5. But for a beginner, I recommend only half a leaf at night time, okay, to calm down the brain. And this is also wide spectrum pathogenic, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-parasitic, all of that, okay. All of these plants are. I think almost all plants have these characteristics. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Ivy, too. Okay, that's another really, really, really amazing one. They're like a vaccine without having to induce a virus in some form of active immunization. Those are immune-making plants. They make you immune to those viruses because they have a long-lasting effect. If I drink the tea now, I made myself rhododendron tea here. It's starting to cool off now. I can drink some. Smells really good. I wished I could make that for you right now and offer that for you. Tastes really, really good. Rhododendron. And then with 1 leaf of Pieris japonica will calm my mind down. I'm pretty calm right now anyway, but It's okay. One leaf during the day is okay. That just makes you more relaxed and feel better. And it doesn't take the concentration away from anything. So I wouldn't drive after taking 5 of those. And for most people, I would not. I don't recommend driving after even eating half of the leaf, because for people who have not been getting used to those, that may impair your focus on driving. So when you drive, you have to be fully focused. You can't be texting. You can't have your devices on. You shouldn't be talking to anyone. You should be fully focused on driving. Okay, I have a friend. She had 2 accidents, demolitioned her BMW in LA. It's absolutely a miracle that nothing happened to her. This happened twice because she was texting on her mobile device. That's why that happened. And she can kill other living being while doing this. This is really serious, So whenever someone wrote to me on the internet, or texted, or wrote me an email and said, "Oh, I'm driving my car right now," I said, I want you to turn this off. I'm not going to talk to you any further. I don't want to be responsible for you having an accident or causing other people to be demolished. Okay, it's very important. So back to the group 1 of men. Group 1 of men are those that are functioning. Okay, and if they are on some kind of substance, or if they are smokers or drink some alcohol once in a while, then all of this is not going to be allowed. In that therapy help center, the Pure Japonica always has the substance in it. I think it's some kind of alkaloid that has a scratchy effect on your throat and on your esophagus. But it's not bad. It doesn't have it doesn't cause any problems. It's just an initial scratchy kind of feeling. The dandelion, when I eat those, that has that effect as well. But they're also extremely good for you, dandelion. So the group 1 of men, they're most of them are somewhat taking some substance or drugs or whatever, pharma drugs, or they might be smokers, or drink occasionally, or drink when they party, or when social type of settings. So all of this is not allowed in that community center, open therapy help center. And we're going to be educating them on getting completely off all of those substances. Okay, very important. So that's more about education on health and all of that. So now let's move over to group 2 of men. Okay, so I will link those up parallel to the cluster. Not the mental illness clusters. I link those up with the drug addiction center. So the second center right after the open center is the center for drug addicts. Drug addicts and they can fall into all the other cluster A and cluster B centers as well. This has a lot of overlaps, of course, but I have to organize it into these 4 different groups, and also for the centers, and also for the different groups of men. Of course, we can do the same thing for women as well. women are usually not as dangerous. So that's why my focus is now on the problematic group, which is men in general. Okay, so except those that are not violent, that are not dangerous. Okay, so but yeah, we need to focus on the issues in the world, and that happens to be violent men. That could be violent for different reasons, but the outcome's still the same, and that's why we need to focus on it, on finding solutions for them. Okay? So, but there are some women that fall into these categories as well, of course, And this is for all, of course. The health centers, this is for all genders, of course. So, drug addicts, women or men, or trans people, they go into that drug rehab help center. Okay, and that's a closed center. That one is a sanatorium that is closed. Not in terms of individual prison cells or something for any of these groups, because I think it is absolutely wrong. As I said before, it's absolutely wrong to incarcerate another living being. Okay, any living being, animal or human, they should never be incarcerated into a small confinement. So if there are people that are absolutely unbelievably dangerous and constantly like on bath salt type of psycho, they will have to be highly monitored, okay, and they may have to be in a specific subdivision of that center where, let's say, they have like a closed station psychiatric ward, which is closed at the end of the hallway, of course. But they have individual rooms that are open. They can come and go. They can go get something to eat or something to drink, but they have to be monitored in this particular high security ward station. So that's how it should be done with the drug addicts, with cluster A and with cluster B. So, and then there are the drug addict men. Okay, that's group 2, drug addict men. They may not all be because they're acting out psychologically, but this has a lot of overlap, because the more drugs and substances that are very toxic, that have very bad toxic side effects on the brain, the more people ingest into their brains, the crazier they become. They have a counter effect. They're like the other direction. They're making people worse than better. Okay, all of these substances. People need to know this. Alcohol, all drugs. Yeah. So all of those substances, including nicotine, that does not help people to grow and heal. Okay, so it causes the brain to fog up, to clog up. It causes arteries to clog up and so on, including the ones in the brain. That's not good. Okay, you want to clear your brain of all the debris. You want to also that the community center will educate people on veganism, on at least vegetarianism, but mainly vegan, mainly plant, raw plant, how to grow your own food, how to unclog your system. So that's what that is for. But we'll also have educational programs in all the other centers, in the closed centers as well. But then within each closed center, there are different levels of intensity of insanity, and that has to be addressed, of course, with high security ward stations. Okay, and then the rest of that center is also closed, but there people have more of a range. They can go into the park on their own. I don't know, probably it's better supervised. Okay, but we're gonna be having great supervision in the future with humanoid robots. So they're going to be helping with this. They're going to be nurses, and they're going to be guards, okay, security guards. And they're going to be perfect also because they're unbelievably strong. They can't be beaten up by anyone. They're bulletproof. They're scratch proof, bite proof, burn proof, acid proof, and they can wrestle someone to the ground in no time. It doesn't matter how strong you are. So, and that's what we need, of course, because when humans take on those kind of jobs, those are very dangerous jobs. And I talked to a guy who was working in a high security prison, okay, and that guy's completely stressed out, okay, even though he's a really big, strong, very masculine guy, totally stressed out. And I don't know how long he's going to be able to do this, okay, before he gets insane himself, and that's what I'm worried about also, Why should people put themselves into that kind of situation? But I tell you why they do it. Because they want to prove their manhood. That's why they get into jobs like this. Dangerous jobs, guard jobs, police officer, patrol jobs, okay? Because those are usually fully straight men who are coming from this is hard to say this now without stepping on someone's ego, but they're coming from the less educated society. They're coming from households where the parents are not educated, and those are worker households. Those are people those are blue collar worker society people, okay? And I don't mean this in order to expose someone or step on someone's feelings. I'm just explaining it to you the way it is, okay? My brother and I happen to come from a household that is intellectual and highly educated on many different areas and very culturally informed about the world. My parents know about many other cultures. They're multiculturally geared, towards handling, towards dealing with people. They're very well aware that they're not allowed to make judgments from the sky perspective. So they're very well aware. They're more, that always tends to be going much more into the liberal direction, of course. While the workers tend to be going much more into the libertarian and the Republican and the conservative direction. And the highly educated households tend to be more liberal and more Democrats and more green and peace and freedom and those liberal type of groups. Okay. So this is just facts, let's look at it, without taking offense, So this is also, again, it's just a broad observation. There are many people in between, of course, and there may be kids that grow up in worker households that are just extremely interested in science and want to soak everything up, and they all take offense and say, no, I'm not like, I'm talking about the majority. I'm talking about the mainstream of those groups, okay, where the most dots fall into the coordinate system, statistical type of, broad observation. Okay. Statistics is all about broad observations, like where do most people fall into, okay, in which, they fall into a specific, sometimes in a coordinate system, there can be dots that are completely randomly strayed around, okay. Then you can't even say there is a specific mean inside, like the mainstream. The mean in statistics means the mainstream graph, okay, that is comprised of all these different dots and somewhere in the middle. I guess you can probably do this even with totally strewn around dots, but usually in a coordinate system, the outcome of a statistical observation, you take a sample from the population and you put these different numbers in of people wherever they are, you will see a specific mainstream in it of dot concentration. Okay. That creates a graph in the coordinate system. That's where the trend is going. That's where most of these dots fall into, most of these people numbers and what they do, so, and observations in terms of when you compare, when you want to find out whether this group is more in this direction or that group more in the other direction. Okay, when you have a hypothesis, you take a sample from the population and you want to find out if this supports your hypothesis. Okay, you say, let's say, to make it, in this particular example, if you observe, you may have your own personal observation already, and you want to test that in with a specific sample, let's say of 1,000 people. It's a small sample of the population, but if it can support your hypothesis or it could not. Okay, but you want to find out. That's what makes psychology or any social science into a science subject. Okay, without statistics, it wouldn't even be recognized or recognizable as a science field to study at the university. Okay, I had a hard time with statistics because I'm not into math that much, and all of that terminology, like chaos, and then with depression and all of this, not easy. Okay, but so from what I have learned, okay, obviously, and then later on I learned more about statistics, of course, and then these things start to make more sense when it's context related in particular. It's always good to teach something extremely context related. This is what they're all doing wrong. I think most universities, as a side note here, most universities around the whole world, or schools, they will, and I know this from personal experience, they will take all of these different subject fields of study, and you have, now in the afternoon you have maths, then right after that you have Latin, after that you have German literature, whatever, or English literature, and then all of these, they're completely detached from one another. That's a mistake. Okay, we need to have a common theme that goes through all of these study fields in order to bring context relation into it, so that the brain that is learning has this guardrail of contextuality that follows, I'm not filming you, that follows through those subjects. And you can do that. You can combine that into physics and into math as well. Okay? You can take a subject that runs through all of these subject fields, because ultimately all of those things are interconnected. Nothing is completely cut off from the other. Okay? All of these study fields are interconnected with one another in some way. Okay, let's bring these dots together so that we can learn in a context related way. And that's how I, for example, was able to learn English very, very quickly. That was long before the internet, and I learned English context related because I went to LA to study to become a primal therapist with Art Janov School. Okay, so, and we had this common subject. There's this guardrail subject and theme: healing, helping, psychology. Okay, and within this framework, within this context-related guardrail. I was able to learn very quickly. I had my dictionary there, constantly looking up words, and I was learning so quickly. I had a boyfriend at that time who he was absolutely amazed how fast I was, and he said, "Oh boy, once you get better at English, I better watch out." He was right, So now today, everyone around the world is learning English context related because of the internet. So the internet gives us this opportunity. But the schools should also be learning in terms of how to teach with context related classes, on every single subject. So I always fan out because all of this ties in with one another, and just wanted to bring this up. I think this is very important so that people understand. Don't take offense to what I say. This is very, very important. Okay, if I came from a worker class, I would say, so what? It is what it is, right? I'm not gonna look at other people or Kim Kardashian and be like super jealous that she came from a showbiz family, and they're all beautiful, and they're all famous, and they're all popular. You are where you are. Wherever you are, you come from where you come from. Whether you come from a worker family, most humans do, okay? The vast majority of humans do, okay? So you're not an outcast, you're not shunned. Most people do, but then what they do is because the ego wants to then pride itself, and then the ego twists it around and wants to shame Hollywood people, and wants to shame academic people, wants to shame good grammar, wants to accuse people with good grammar as grammar Nazis, and so on. Stick to yourself. You are where you are. If someone has good grammar, use that. Utilize that to learn better grammar. That's all I can say. Instead of shaming them and shunning them and staying where you are, stop looking at other people where they are and look at where you are. You are where you are. If you have bad grammar, then do what you can to make your grammar better. Okay? Read more books, watch documentary films instead of intellectual junk, instead of brain junk, instead of horror movies and violent video games, and instead of hanging out with other violent people. Look to, and the internet is your opportunity for this. If you feel shy particularly, or if you feel like you can't connect with this or that group, at least watch the videos that will move you forward in your life. That's all I can say. This is very good advice that I'm giving here. So the second group of help centers is the drug rehab help center. Real big complex. We can convert hospitals into those, and make that amazing instead of the way it is right now, where people are just being fed poison, because the physicians get kickback money from the pharma industry. This is extremely corrupt the way it is right now. It needs to be changed. Okay, so then the parallel group to that, the group 2 of men, drug addicts, not necessarily criminals, not necessarily dangerous. If they are getting into the danger zone, then they also fall into the other 2 groups. But let's just stay with the drug rehab center. A lot of those can already be helped then, even if they are somewhat delinquent or maybe have hurt someone in some way, they can still be helped in that group rehab center just by removing the toxins from their bodies. Okay, so education will flow into this, into all of the centers as well. Okay, and I cannot hang out with people that are drug addicts. Okay, I cannot hang out with cluster A's or cluster B's either. They need specific help. Okay, I am like a hobby psychologist, hobby therapist. I say hobby because I haven't finished my studies. Okay, I had to drop out because of my own mental illness, but I continued this learning process, and I learned way more after the university. Okay, on my own, through reading books and then on the internet massively. I always knew once I get on the internet, I have access to all of that information and I will use it. Most people don't even know where to look, how to learn. I already had the foundation of having been at the university, so I knew where to look for all of that information and the literature and all of that. And that moved me forward a whole lot. And I don't care if I have a degree or not. What matters is that I have knowledge. Okay, that's what really matters if we want to make the world a better place. And particularly use this, for my own healing process, because I'm on a constant holistic healing path. I started that in 2003 in LA. My healing path, my holistic healing path. When I quit all the pharmaceutical stuff for mental illness, when I quit that the second time, that's when I went after that. That's when I decided from the inside out, I have to go on a holistic path. Before I found Dr. Schultz even. That's when I just looked at I was already on the internet. I was looking, I was researching. I was doing my way up petition. A lady came up to me, signed the petition and said, "We have a session tomorrow. Come on over. It only costs $30 for Messengers of Light." That was a major healing step for me. Okay, only $30 for unbelievable healing, forward motion, even healing for our dogs. Because that's a long story. I got into this before in my other videos. Long story. So unbelievable. Okay, that goes deep into metaphysics also. So they helped me a whole lot. And that lady, Latifa, the leader of that particular healing group from South America, she did a healing on my head, and she said particularly here was, she kissed me on my forehead and she said, "You're going to be okay. It's not easy, but you're going to be okay. Okay, I'm so glad you came here." Okay. And that felt unbelievably good. I felt like a child with a mama kissing me on my forehead, and helping me heal. That was energy healing, and they recharged the water that was standing there, and we gave that water to our dogs, and it healed them from that mysterious dog illness that they had at that time. It's a big story, that covers an entire hour of video, but I don't want to get into this now. So we learn about all of these things in all the therapy help centers. Okay, so the drug addicts, I can only hang out with people that are functioning, that would go to that are somewhat functioning, that go to that first therapy help center, the open one. Okay, and there I can be as a counselor once we get the AGI robots and they eliminate all of this counseling certificate bullshit and all of that. The people that have these certificates, counseling certificates, all this bureaucracy, those people that have gotten their diplomas and their counseling certificates, they still don't know what they're doing. They're still tapping in the dark. Okay, I know way more than they do. It's the truth. I'm not saying that to brag. It's the truth. I'm observing this. Okay. So that's why I reserve myself the right to give people health advice, because I know way more than most physicians do, than most counselors, most therapists, most psychiatrists. That's the truth, okay? So, because I have all of that information, and I'm constantly connecting the dots, and I'm already going over an hour now, so I don't know if I can make the video that long until it cuts off or something, but I want to get into the other groups. So group 2 with men that are drug addicts. A lot of men fall into this category. Okay, they need to go to the drug rehab health center. Okay, then we have group 3 of men. Group 3 of men are schizoid personalities, and that is parallel to the Cluster A Help Center. Okay, the Cluster A Help Center is for the schizoid personalities, for all the schizoid personality disorders. There's a whole range from A to Z. Okay, anything can go into it. People with extreme, with DID that are not functioning. There are some people that have DID that are functioning. They can go to the open center. But the ones that are not functioning, where they do terrible things in other personalities, where they have no recollection of what they have done during the time when they were in one personality, they have to go into the Cluster A Help Center, and that's a closed sanatorium as well, and they'll get all the help there that you can possibly imagine. And I bet you these people are going to heal. They're going to completely, when that heals up, they're going to be like, oh my God, whoa. That's what's going to happen when they heal. When all these personalities fuse back together, and the main person that they are becomes aware of all of these personalities and why they got into those personalities. So there are people that this is not some abrupt different illness. There are many illnesses that are on that spectrum of denial. I talked about this in my other video. There could be anything from denial to where people, they will switch in their behavior according to the situation. That goes very much in that direction already. And that are not conscious about their way of switching their behavior when surrounded by different people. And when they're in a specific they're surrounded by specific people. Let's say they're surrounded by physicians. Their personality completely switches over to behaving differently. They might switch over into a childlike behavior. That may not be a full-blown DID, but it goes in that direction, and the DID has this incomplete disconnect. There's a complete disconnect then between these different personalities that are happening. And then this may also go into metaphysics from what I have been observing, because there was a woman, she wrote a book about this. She was a professor at the university. She was teaching English literature. I think that's what she was teaching. And she would go to other classes also in between, also learning and constantly improving. She had 20 different distinct personalities that would come out, where she would actually have no recollection of what she has done in different personalities. Very interesting. I forgot the title of the book. A woman from the United States. And the reason why I started to speculate on metaphysics and different souls in these different personalities is when I heard things, other people too, but specifically when she was talking about, she wrote a book about her healing process, and she's done a whole lot of work. I was really, really eager. She already coming from an intellectual background, very eager to heal. Okay, so intellectuals are much more eager to learn because they have a bit more of an overview altogether, that they can recognize that they have a pathology. Okay, while someone who can't recognize it is not even going to go to a psychiatrist, is not even going to go into the healing process. They're just going to go into act outs and into drugs, because they don't even know where to start. That's why I bring this information to the public, because it is absolutely vital so that people can begin to look into themselves. Okay, so if you can, do it. It will make the world a better place. But we need to have these different groups, these different help centers where people can get that help. And that woman with DID, she said that she would be taking notes with two hands, with two different pens, writing completely, totally subject, unrelated things, simultaneously with both hands. Some people may say, this is BS, this is hocus pocus, this is just some kind of weird story that someone made up. I believe it. I believe it 100%. She was writing like this, and not even looking. The two hands were doing something completely different, like two different people. And that's what they were. One personality was guiding one hand, the other one was guiding the other, and writing something down simultaneously on two pieces of paper. And the other students saw that. They were looking at her and they were shocked. They were getting scared. It's a little bit like The Exorcist or The Dance of the Devil or something like this. Some horror film like that. So, but that lady was not dangerous. She was highly intellectual and very well aware that this is a serious problem. She wanted to heal this, and she was very surprised about that herself, about these unbelievable supernatural abilities that would be even surfacing when she was dissociating into different personalities, where she would write something differently with two hands. And it's very shocking. So that's when I thought, okay, so what if there are different souls that come into the different personalities? There are so-called walk-in souls, that there are souls that can temporarily visit someone in a somewhat disconnected mental state also, or someone who had a severe accident where the brain got damaged, where one soul leaves and another one comes in, okay? Because the other soul cannot possibly be in a damaged brain like that, that may have lost the compassion center. Okay, so then another soul will come in that will identify itself with that particular brain damage, and will act in a bad way. So this goes way into metaphysics. This can be speculated on. I don't know what other people, everyone has a different view on this. But I am definitely giving this credit. Okay, so everything is energy also. We have to keep that in mind. Okay, so but staying in this physical realm, working with the physical realm that we are in, we can't just be swaying off somewhere into outer space. We are here. We have to deal with this existence. We are flesh. We are in molecular form. We're atoms. We're in a body, okay, and everything around us has a body. The computer does too. So we have to deal with this realm, okay, and try to make the best out of it, okay. Very important is learning, Okay, that's extremely important for healing. Learning and healing really go hand in hand. Okay, it's very, very important. So, and then there are men that are cluster A, okay, schizoid, and they can be totally disconnected. They can be in denial. They can have multiple personalities. They can switch their mental state according to the situation. They're very unstable if they're under pressure. So highly unstable men. The ones that are functioning, that may have some schizoid, but that are functioning, they go to the open center. The ones that are not functioning, they have to go into the cluster A help center. Okay, and some of them can be dangerous. Okay, so then we have, just to round up the video now, to come to a conclusion, we have group 4 men. Those are cluster B. Those are criminals. They also can have some schizoid elements, like I said. It overlaps, but I have to put this in order to organize it. I have to put this into these 4 categories. Group 4 is cluster B. Those are dangerous. They act out violently. If they feel rejected, they will hit someone. They have no impulse control at all. They have no prefrontal cortical functioning, thinking about the future, thinking about consequences. Many of them are psychopaths, okay? And sociopaths also. And sociopaths, they may be functioning only, like, if you look at it on the surface, they appear like they function, like CEOs for the oil industry. Those are dangerous people. I put them into the cluster B, and they need to go into the cluster B help center. And all prisons need to be converted into cluster B help centers. They need to be converted into those cluster B sanatoriums that are closed. Within those centers, they also should have high security units, where they have to have specific staff looking after them. But the other ones also need to be monitored, okay, when they go out into the park. And the one in the high security unit, they should also go into the park every day for a few hours, but every single person should have either a humanoid robot accompanying them, or a trained guard person, a security guard, and a nurse. So when it's people that are doing those jobs, okay. And the humanoid robot just needs to have one robot. They'll do all of these things. They're also a physician at the same time, and they are like thousands of times smarter and more educated than every human could be. So that's why we need to go in that direction. It's absolutely important. And I cannot be hanging out with people that are cluster B, that will snap at the drop of a hat, okay, that will snap at being criticized, if someone gets to be, if someone says, let's say if woman X says something to man Y. Okay, so if she asks the question why to man Y, man Y, that letter. Okay, so person X says Y to person Y, particularly if the woman is X, and that is also the case. That is genetically the case. Okay, we have the X's on our DNA. The men have an X and a Y. So we need to ask men all the time, why? You are so why? So, But anyway, if a woman says to a man, why did you do this? Why did you threaten that? Why did you wish that other person something terrible? I don't even want to repeat it, what I see on the internet. And instead of answering the question, he feels exposed. If he's a psychopath, he feels immediately exposed. He feels threatened. Everything goes into a frenzy, fight or flight. Total disconnect, to complete cognitive dissonance, complete unattunement. Everything is just like the house is on fire and he's running through the door. Okay, so that's what's going on inside of a psychopath who's being criticized or even asked a question. Why did you do this? And he snaps and he'll turn against her. If it's in person, he will beat her up. He will kill her, or he'll kill anyone. He'll try to kill a man. Might even kill his son or daughter, or an animal. If some psychopaths feel threatened by a parrot, a parrot is an animal. A parrot is not mocking you. A parrot is just parroting. A parrot, I've heard all of this, that's why I bring this up. There was a man who brutally killed a parrot because he felt mocked by that parrot. I wonder how many times this is happening in the world. That one story came to the surface. At some point it was on the news, and that's a psychopath. He can't think through his prefrontal cortex anymore. He can't. The cortex is bypassed. Okay, this is a direct loop between the hippocampus and the amygdala in the brain, and Dr. Sam Vaknin talked about this. Arthur Janov talked about it. There are science documentaries that explain all of this in depth. Okay, there's a short circuit loop in psychopaths that's happening, and they feel threatened. And when they feel threatened, there's no more connection to that other being. Okay, they feel like there's no love possible because they feel threatened by that. They feel mocked, and they just want to kill. They see red. That's all. And that is the most severe form of mental illness, of all mental illnesses. That's the worst mental illness, and that is the most criminally insane mental illness there is. I'm not judging this from the sky perspective. I'm just saying it the way it is. The majority of those people are on the loose, and they're hurting the communities. They're setting forests on fire. They are killing people. They're murdering the very people that are helping them, that are trying to help them. They bite the hands that feed them. They make the world into a horror show. Okay, and that is why we have to convert all prisons into cluster B help centers. I cannot hang out with people like this. Okay, not even in writing. Okay, this is how I'm gonna end the video now. I hope that makes a lot of sense. For anyone who watches this, if you are a psychopath, I hope that this video sheds some light for you onto the situation and onto your own mechanisms. And I can only say, if you want to get better, do everything you can to get better. You have to quit the substances. They make you worse, okay? You have to become a vegetarian. This is absolutely vitally important. The meat is clogging up your brain, okay? The meat is causing you heart bypass surgeries. It causes you strokes. It causes you all kinds of health problems, and it makes your cluster B mental illness much worse, okay? It's a killer, okay? I'm not saying this lightly. This is the truth. Okay, you have to do everything you can to get well. Okay, because you are people who are psychopaths. They make other people suffer. They make you. Please understand that this is not helping you or the world. Okay, if I can reach you somehow with this video, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can reach these people with that video. They probably only see my mouse and they see me, I don't know, they see me as garbage, or they interpret something into me. Okay, I don't know, maybe they just see me as a Karen. Listen to what I say. I'm trying to help you. Okay, listen to what I am saying to you. Listen to the words. Listen to the context. Okay, if you want your life to get better, you have to do everything you can to make it better. You have to turn towards the healing modalities. Wide spectrum healing, holistic healing. Okay, my videos are there for you for that purpose. Okay, listen to my advice. That's all I can say for now. Okay, but in the future we have to convert all prisons into cluster B help centers. Okay, you guys take care. Bye bye.